UFC 287, Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. Second fight. Well, actually, their fourth fight, but their second fight in MMA. Obviously, the first one, Pereira got it done. I'm going to go over the full card, give you breakdowns and predictions for every fight, starting with the prelim opener of Sam Hughes taking on Jacqueline Amorim. The first thing to mention here is the grappling upside, or not even grappling upside, just the grappling capabilities of Jacqueline Amorim. She's much better on the mat than Sam Hughes is. The question is, will she be able to get the takedowns to get it to the mat? Because Sam Hughes, despite not being the best wrestler, she can defend the first few takedowns usually. In her fights, she does get taken down, but usually it's not by the first shot. Usually it's if opponents shoot more, a few shots every round, eventually they'll get one. I think Jacqueline, even if she doesn't get the takedown in the first, attempt, she'll keep shooting over and over until she gets it. And she doesn't even have to shoot like every single minute or anything like that, because she has I don't want to say she has great hands, because she doesn't, but she does have a little bit of pop in her punches, as you've seen with some of her overhands. She actually does, pack a little bit of power. So there is that to worry about for Sam Hughes. And I just don't think Sam Hughes, despite Jacqueline not fighting a great level of competition, she's won all of her fights. You can't say the same about Sam Hughes. She has fought some good competition, but every time she's taken a step up, she's lost. And I think Jacqueline Amorim is a pretty good fighter who is taking a step up in her own right. But I do think she is good enough to beat Sam Hughes in her debut. Second fight of the night. Oh, thought that wouldn't go there. Steve Garcia versus Shailon Nurdenbecki. I was kind of 50-50 on this fight at first. I was saying, I might go Steve, but I'm going to go Shailon, and here's why. Steve Garcia, he has a few, you look and you're like, okay, beat Chase Hooper, he beat Charlie Tavares, he got 2 finishes in those fights, but, Chase Hooper, the guy that has 0 striking, absolutely, no clue what to do when it's on the feet, knocks him out pretty easily. And his other win was against Charlie Tavares, who, what is he now, like 11-10 or something? I could probably check that. Let's see what he is now. Charlie Tavares is 11-9, so it's not like he's a really great fighter, one of the worst on the roster at the time. And then he also lost to Machate in a minute, just kind of bull rushed him, didn't really have any defense for it, and paid the price, and then lose to Luis Pena. I think Shailon just has a huge edge and experience. Despite being the younger fighter, he has a huge edge and experience. He can pack some power in his punches as well. As can Steve. In all fairness, Steve, he can hit pretty hard. He dropped Chase Hooper multiple times in their fight. Again, though, Chase Hooper has 0 striking defense, so you can't use that as a measure of how Garcia is going to do against Shailon. I think Shailon is going to be a lot better defensively, and his wrestling is, on the level where he can take down Steve Garcia. I don't know if he'll be able to hold down Steve Garcia, but he should be able to take him down, at least get a little bit of control time here and there. Plus, he's training on a kill cliff now, so that should help him. I'm going with Shailon to win the fight. Next up is Trey Ogden versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm picking Ignacio Bahamondes to win. He can probably finish this fight inside the distance as well. I'm going to say he finds the knockout, because Trey Ogden, despite never being knocked out, 16-5, you look at Trey Ogden, you're like, okay, maybe he's a decent underdog, 4-1 in his last 5, like just looking at the topology here. But the thing with Trey Ogden is his striking is very basic striking. Throws a lot of leg kicks and doesn't really throw a lot of, great combinations with the hands or anything like that. Ignacio Bahamondes is very good, boxing, and he throws really good kicks, as you see. There was a wheel kick knockout against Roosevelt Roberts. That was with like 10 seconds or so in the 3rd round. He was beating Roosevelt Roberts pillar to post, just beating him up. And then he finished him, knocked him out with that wheel kick. And then he submitted Zhu Rong, beating him the entire fight, and then submits him. So it's like, and even in his UFC debut, lost a split decision to John McDessie, an experienced guy. So Ignacio Bahamondes, he's fought, I'd say, a better level of competition. Trey Ogden has fought decent competition as well. Jordan Levitt lost a split, and then he beat Daniel Zellhuber, a prospect that didn't really, well, at least in the first fight, isn't looking like he's going to pan. Hopefully he does pan out, because he did have a lot of hype coming in, got shut down a little bit by Trey Ogden, but he could still grow and become a really good fighter. But I just think Ignacio Bahamondes at 25 is improving rapidly. Very good striker, by far way better than Trey Ogden on the feet. And even on the mat, I think he'll be safe from Trey Ogden. I don't think Ogden will be able to take him down. And even if Ogden does take him down, I think Bahamondes will be able to scramble back up and just keep winning on the feet and find a knockout. Cynthia Calvillo versus Lupita Godinez. I think this fight is closer than a lot of people think it is, but I'm still going to pick Lupi to win, just because Cynthia Calvillo is coming off of 4 losses. She hasn't really looked great in any of those fights either. Loses a split decision to Nina Nunes in her most recent fight. That was 7 months ago. And Nina Nunes, I'm pretty sure she was pregnant and had a daughter or something like that, like a few months before the fight, or whatever the case may be. So that's not really a good look. And Nina Nunes is also old as well. So bad look to lose to her. Lupi Godinez loses to Angela Hill, who, despite having a bad record, is actually a good fighter. Very experienced UFC fighter. So not the worst loss to have. Didn't even really attempt to wrestle, though, which is concerned a lot of people. But I think Lupi is better everywhere than Cynthia in this fight. I think she's better. She can beat her in the striking, and she can take her down if she wants to. So she should win the fight. But the reason I say it's closer than a lot of people think is because Cynthia has been in there with the better competition. So that could play a factor as far as, Cynthia shocking some people and keeping this competitive. But I do think Lupi should get it done. Next up is Carl Williams versus the Vanilla Gorilla Chase Sherman. And I think this is, I'm calling it one of the easier fights to pick on the card. So I guess that means Chase Sherman's going to win. But no, I think Carl Williams wins the fight. I think this is pretty lopsided in terms of what is each guy good at. Chase Sherman, he can box a bit. He's not a bad boxer. I'm pretty sure he's in BKFC, bare knuckle. Yeah, bare knuckle as well. In between his UFC stints. His latest UFC stint, he's lost a lot of UFC fights, but his latest one started with him signing a contract to get in the UFC to fight Romanov after getting cut, and takes the fight, loses, but I guess he gets a few more fights on his contract for fighting Romanov. He beats Jared Bandera, which isn't impressive in the slightest, and he loses to Waldo Cortez Acosta. For Carl Williams, he's a wrestler. He's going to wrestle. He's going to be, I don't know if he's going to submit Chase Sherman. I mean, he probably can submit Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman's just not, his grappling is not good. Wrestling defense, not good. And Carl Williams, that's what he does. It's his bread and butter. Just taking guys down, out grappling them, out wrestling them. I think this is one of the easiest fights to pick on the card. Carl Williams. Next up is Gerald GM3 Mearshart versus Body Bags Joe Pyfer. And I'm picking Joe Pyfer. I have a little bit of bias towards Joe Pyfer. I'm, a big Joe Pyfer fan. Just since he, watching him on the Contender Series, I was like, wow, coming back actually from an injury on the Contender Series, the first time he went on to winning by knockout on the Contender Series, winning his first UFC fight against Alan Amedovski by knockout. And he set that, he's setting up his knockouts really well. It's not just like he's throwing wild and somehow clipping his opponent and finishing him. Like he's setting these knockouts up. He's waiting for his opportunity. He's not rushing things. I really like Joe Pyfer. GM3, good fighter, experienced fighter, been fighting in the UFC forever, 35-15. The guy has an amazing, just an amazing amount of experience under his belt. So I can't say GM3 is an easy ask for Pyfer. This is a tough fight, but just looking at it stylistically, GM3 gets hit way too often for my liking, especially against Pyfer. And I think Pyfer can crack. I think he can hit really hard, and he can put guys away if he touches their chin. And I think he's just going to be able to touch Mearshart's chin. And I don't think Mearshart's going to be able to, his chin's going to be able to hold up. Now, his chin has held up in the last few, but I don't think, especially against Bruno Silva, a lot of people did not think he would win that fight. And he actually dropped Bruno Silva, rocked him, and submitted him. So it's like Pyfer does have to be careful of the striking of GM3 a little bit. But I just think in general, Pyfer is much more, clean on the feet. He's much more relaxed, loose on the feet. I think Mearshard's just a little bit stiff, and I think I think Pfeiffer's just going to catch him. Younger guy as well, improving, coming into the prime of his career. Not even in the prime of his career, only 26 years old. Give me Joe Pfeiffer to win by knockout, first round. Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus Luana Pinheiro. I'm actually going to go with the underdog here in Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Mainly because, this is kind of a tough one to pick because I haven't seen too much out of Luana Pinheiro against good competition. And I do know I picked Jacqueline O'Moore back down on the card against Sam Hughes, but I feel like that's a little bit different. Sam Hughes isn't really a great fighter, hasn't really fought the elite of the elite, and she's lost to anyone decent she's fought. Whereas Michelle Waterson-Gomez, yeah, you can say the same about her. She's lost 4 of her last 5, but look at who she's fighting. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Carla Esparza loses split, beats Angela Hill, Marina Rodriguez, and Amanda Lemos. Like, she's been fighting, top level competition time and time again. And I just think Luana Pinheiro, judo background, going to try to get her to the mat. Her striking doesn't really impress me. I think Michelle Waterson-Gomez should win this fight, actually, as an underdog. It's kind of, a lot of people are going to say Pinheiro just because they look at her record 10-1, 5-0 in her last 5, but she hasn't fought anyone good. No one even close to the level of Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Waterson-Gomez, her age is a concern, but if you look past that, I think she's just, at this point, she's the fighter that's fought the better competition. She has a pretty decent striking background compared to Luana. I think she'll be able to beat Luana on the feet. So if she defends the judo, defends some of the grappling of Luana, I think Michelle Waterson-Gomez is actually pretty live as an underdog in this fight. Headliner of the prelims. I know Chris Curtis wasn't happy about being on the prelims. I understand him a little bit. He's a veteran of the game. He's had, 39. This is his 40th fight. This guy's insane. He's been fighting forever. All respect to Chris Curtis, and I'm picking him to win this fight against Kelvin Gastelum. Really, I'm just going to say the quote that everyone knows the quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that's a perfect example of Chris Curtis and Kelvin Gastelum, in my opinion. Or if that quote is true, that Chris Curtis should beat Kelvin Gastelum if the quote is true, because Kelvin Gastelum is the definition of a guy with talent, but he doesn't work hard enough. He's not a true middleweight. He doesn't. I don't know how he's. He doesn't realize that he still has time in his career. He's only 31 years old. He still improve. He still can improve. He's still a pretty young guy for middleweight. Chris Curtis getting up there, 35, but you look at Chris Curtis, he's the active fighter. He has good boxing. He can, if he touches people, they get hurt bad. And Kelvin Gastelum, sure, he's got a granite chin, but he can be rocked, he can be dropped. And Chris Curtis, if he rocks or drops Gastelum, even if he doesn't finish him, if he rocks or drops Gastelum, he can steal around. And, I could see him, starting to light up Gastelum in the second and third rounds. I think it's a relatively close fight just because, like I said, the skill set of Gastelum and just the talent of Gastelum is very high. He had some competitive fights against very good fighters of the division. Fought Izzy, fought Darren Till when Darren Till was actually good. Loses to Jack Hermanson, beats Ian Heinisch, Robert Whitaker, and Jared Cannonier. So pretty much a lot of the best of the best. But Curtis, I feel like this is his time to shine. He's been waiting for a moment like this. He really wants to, get that, hit hopefully his next fight. He probably wants his next fight, if he wins this one, to be like a main event at the Apex or something like that. So I think Chris Curtis, working harder, good boxing. Gastelum's been out for over a year and a half now. I'm going with Chris Curtis to get it done. Probably by decision, but I could see him possibly lighting up Gastelum and finding a finish, but more than likely, I'll say decision for Curtis. To open up the main card, we have Raul Rosas Jr. versus C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez. And this is ultimately a fight of, do you think C-Rod's going to be able to defend the wrestling, defend the grappling of Rosas, or do you think Rosas is just going to ragdoll him and dominate him, or just control him for most of the fight? Because that's what Raul Rosas does. Rosas is a grappler. He's going to try to wrestle and out wrestle his opponents, get him to the ground, and he does look for submissions as well. His grappling is actually very good. I don't think people realize how good Raul Rosas actually is. He's a beast. Only 18 years old, and like I said, his grappling is just, it's suffocating grappling. If he doesn't find the finish, he'll just out grapple you for 15 minutes. Stay on top, take your back if you can't. Like, he's a dangerous guy. At only 18, I can't believe he's in the UFC and winning fights. At 18 years old, it's unbelievable. It's insane, but I'm going to pick him to get it done again. C-Rod, good fighter. We saw him get out grappled before by Jonathan Pierce, who, don't get me wrong, Jonathan Pierce is an excellent fighter, an amazing wrestler, but Raul Rosas, and in his last fight against Joshua Weems, he got taken down. He found the submission against Weems. Good. It was a good win for him, but it just showed that he can get taken down. He has the hole in his game of the takedown defense, and I just think Rosas will exploit that. And I think if Rosas gets on top, he's not going to get submitted by a guy like C-Rod. I know C-Rod is dangerous, but I just think Rosas will be, smart enough to stay out of the submissions, or stay safe from submission attempts, I should say, and get the win done I'll say by decision. It's going to be tough to finish a guy like C-Rod. Next up is Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, and I'm taking Kevin Holland, despite Kevin Holland, me picking him in his last fight, and I really thought Kevin Holland was going to beat Wonderboy. I thought that was like, Kevin Holland's definitely going to win this fight because, I knew Wonderboy has amazing striking, but I was like, Kevin Holland, he has to use his, he has to try to grapple a little bit with Wonderboy. He got on top of Wonderboy and just let him back up. Fight IQ, which is not there. Not sure. I don't know why you wouldn't at least try to, look for a sub or just look to stay on top and win the round when you're on top of Wonderboy instead of letting him back up and just letting him piece you up. But despite that, and then in his last fight, self-admittedly, he said he got raped by Chimaev. I agree. He got destroyed by Chimaev, but Khamzat Chimaev is a different beast, so I won't hold that against him. And he wasn't training for Chimaev, so that's another thing to take in. He took that fight on 1 day notice. So against Ponzinibbio, I think he should win this one. I think I'm riding with him again. After last fight against Wonderboy, you could say, are you sure you want to, pick him? But I think he has the ability to get it done. He has the ability to win in the striking, and his grappling is better. He actually is very dangerous. I can see a club and sub. I'm going to call a club and sub second round. Second round, Kevin Holland, straight right hand, rocks Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio shoots. I'll say Holland latches up a guillotine. Bold pick, I know, or bold, prediction, I know, but, well, not too bold. I think a lot of people are picking Kevin Holland to possibly win inside the distance or by submission, but I do think Holland could get it. Should be able to win here. This is the featured fight next of Rob Font and Adrian Yanez. My pick is going to be Adrian Yanez. And I want to, I'll say this. I'm slightly worried for Yanez only because the level of, and I say this sometimes, well, I've been saying it the whole video, so not sometimes, all the time, I guess. But Yanez hasn't fought the level of competition that Font has fought. But with me saying that, there are things that I like in Yanez's favor that Rob Font has a disadvantage in. One of those being the age. Font is on the wrong side of 35, about to be 36. Yanez, still 29 years old, coming into his prime at bantamweight right now. Quick hands. Yanez has incredible boxing, unbelievably fast hands. Font has an amazing jab. Very good at Font's not a power guy. We know that. He doesn't hit with a lot of power, but he just lights you up with volume. Font will light you up with volume. Will put a ton of volume out there. He'll throw a lot of shots. He'll throw to the body, throw to the head. He'll just throw out a ton. But I just think Yanez is going to be the slicker guy. I feel like even if Font can land a lot of volume early, I think Yanez will eventually catch him and rock him and either finish him. I think even though Font's never been knocked out before officially, if you look at his record, he's never actually been knocked out. So It is, but you have to look at this. His last fight against Cheeto 11 months ago, he got his face destroyed, and that's just the best way I can put it. Like, it looked like he got hit with a baseball bat like 50 times to the face. That's what it looked like after they fought. Cheeto just destroyed him, rocked him and dropped him badly on multiple occasions, hurt him with everything, with knees, with punches, with kicks to the head. Like, he just took so much damage in that fight. And even against Aldo, he got rocked and dropped a few times, or at least once that I remember. So I just think Yanez, he has two quick hands for Fon at this point in his career. I'm going with Yanez to get it done. I'm going to say he's the first person to officially knock out Rob Font. Co-main event is Gilbert Durinho Burns versus Jorge Gamebred Masvidal in his hometown of Miami. And I think Gilbert Burns beats Jorge Masvidal either, well, you could say by submission. I would not be that surprised, although Masvidal is actually a better grappler than people give him credit for. He didn't get submitted by Damian Maia, which is a pretty big accomplishment because Damian Maia has submitted a lot of guys. And having Damian Maia on your back and not getting submitted is an impressive task to not get submitted there. But against Burns, I think the thing with Burns is the threat that he has is not only in the grappling, he can strike too, and he has power in his hands. So I think Masvidal technically is a better striker than Burns, but if Masvidal is worried about Burns shooting or Burns trying to grapple, Burns might be able to catch him over the top or throw like a big looping shot, and maybe as Masvidal's thinking that Burns is going to take him down, he throws like a big overhand and catches him. I just see Burns being the hungrier fighter as well. Masvidal's been talking about retirement or mentioned it. If he loses, he might hang up the gloves or something. And I'm like, when a fighter talks about retirement, I can't pick him. Burns still hungry, wants the belt. Just came off of an amazing win, first round win over Neil Magny. Lost to Khamzat Chimaev in the fight before, but that fight was very close. It was a clear Chimaev win, but it was like a competitive fight. It wasn't like Burns was out of it at any time. 29-28, like close fight with Chimaev, the boogeyman of the division, now at 185. Just a really, really good fighter in his prime as well. And I think Masvidal is just out of his prime, not the same guy he once was. I think Burns should win. And in the main event of the evening, it is Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya, the rematch. Their actually fourth official fight across kickboxing and MMA. Man, I'm going with Pereira, though. I'm going with Poatan to beat Izzy for the fourth time, 4-0 against Izzy. Izzy, I just think, Alex has his number. Certain guys just have other guys' numbers. They just, they can't beat him. And I think this is one of those where Alex is just better than Israel. And sure, Izzy can, he's good technically, uses a lot of kicks, tries to stay at range against most of his opponents. But against Alex, I just feel like Pereira's going to walk him down. He's not going to be worried about, too much of, power coming from Izzy. Although Izzy did rock him in the first round. He did have Alex hurt badly in the first round. I just think Pereira, if he doesn't, get rocked and hurt in the first round, I think he'll be better throughout the fight. And I even think he could stun and catch Izzy earlier than he did. I think that he caught him in the fifth round of the last fight. I think he can win even earlier. I think it could be even like a second or third round win for Pereira. I just think he's been training, obviously, MMA now, exclusively, no more just pure kickboxing. He's like, for a few years, he's been just all MMA, focused on getting that belt. Now he's got the belt. If he wins this fight, he's going to want to go up and fight Jamal Hill and avenge the loss, Glover's loss. And I really think that's the fight to make if he wins. I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm picking Alex Pereira to win. And if he wins, I'm calling it now. I think he calls out Jamal Hill. I think that's pretty obvious, though. I think that's who he said before he wants to fight. I think that's an amazing fight. But I do think he moves up in weight if he does beat Izzy. And I think he will for the fourth time in a row. So that is the full UFC 287 card prediction. Thank you guys for watching, and